So that's where we're at. And now, Smash, you actually posted the list of people who are gone, confirmed.
Yeah,
I
and
can
I'm
pull up right
working
here.
on an article right now about it. I was gonna record a video and edit it, but I was doing this instead, so that's gonna delay that. But yeah, this is a pretty wild day in the world of journalism. Chris Plant was the one that was, it was like 10 years ago. He was the one that was trying to get that scientist canceled for wearing that T-shirt about misogyny. That was a
Oh,
while
right.
ago. He was
Wow.
that guy. It's like, man, when I go through the list of names and these people, they are just, I mean, maybe there are exceptions, but by and large, it's just awful person after awful person after awful
Well,
person.
the one that is really
Mhm.
making the rounds is our good friend Jeff Grubb here.
Oh, yeah.
And wow, just funny day. But this is bound to happen. And what's interesting of Valnet, and Valnet is actually probably one of the worst evil corporations out there.
Well, the AI writing now, especially with Claude 3.7 Sonnet, is better than the average journalist writing.
By far.
I mean,
By far.
it can do a pretty effective simulation of Neil Gaiman. We've seen a pretty effective emulation of Larry Correa. And so being able to do, basic journal pap is not going to be an issue for it.
It's almost like they looked at activism as a way to fight back against AI, thinking that was the path forward to be like, oh, if we're activists in here, AI can't really replicate that. So we'll be activists in this.
I've got Larry in AI. Do you think he knows? Do you think my.
Okay, the start of this crappy ass thing starts with them bonding and being all for AI. Yeah, activism didn't actually exist before AI. God. For this particular video, I'm gonna skip this whole buddy routine and get to the meat of what people are talking about. On both sides of the aisle, which way will the wind blow with me and my particular opinion? I think both sides, Godgate and Goonergate, which I call the religious folks, and just the folks that seem to have no standards at all.
Do you think? Do you know who Smash JT is? I programmed a Larry, so we'll see what he says. Smash
be
JT,
dangerous.
don't ring a bell. Look, I interact with a lot of people online at cons, but unless this guy is an author I've worked with or someone I've had significant interactions with, I probably don't know him. If he's some YouTuber or social media personality, there's about 1,000 of those guys now. I don't keep track of all of them. I'm too busy writing books and running my business to keep up with every content creator out there. Is this some gotcha question where you think I should know who this person is?
It is amazing. It is amazing how well this does. You may not realize it, but this, Larry is.
And just for context, Jon Del Arroz and Vox Day both started out in the sort of novel sphere. The person they're sort of making fun of here is someone who started a Sad Puppies campaign back during 2014, 2015 to try to get more non-progressive authors nominated for all the award shows that started to become excessively progressive, what people would probably call woke nowadays. But that wasn't enough for people like Vox Day, who really started his own Splinter Cell rabbit puppies. And from what I know, that sort of destroyed that movement, and the woke side, or should I say progressive side of that block, just basically steamrolled with the sort of racist label for both groups. And that seems to have stuck around for a while.
They're all losing. And I think that's where it's easy to because I honestly look at
doing our own thing outside of their areas of influence. And so they don't really know what to do because they don't create, and they can't imitate what we're doing successfully because either, it's too right wing for them. Military science fiction is not something that an SJW is going to do well. And they're way too lazy to do something like we've done and build up a whole publishing system themselves.
Right. Yeah, they're never going to do anything like that. And I guess from what we're hearing, they are starting a Discord server to talk about perhaps starting a website, maybe. And I hear that all these out of work journalists are going to join a Discord server together.
Kotaku journalists already started. What was it? Aftermath. They already did their own site. They already have that going. It's user supported. And they're doing, I guess, okay. I mean, it's been there for a while, but not okay enough to bring on more. And
Are they a Patreon system, or do they have their own backend system that you can't even look at, like what they've actually got?
I think it's just like a subscription service to access the articles, but I haven't dove into it too far. But my greater point being is I don't think they have the bandwidth to take on more people because the money's just not there. And thinking about just from my perspective, running smashjt.com, like thinking about like hiring another person to help write and stuff like that. Like that is a massive, massive undertaking just for one person.
But they were never reviewing games like Dwarf Fortress or, even really significant stuff that was breaking new ground. They paid no attention to it.
Well, I'd almost say like the dynamic of the game has shifted over the course of the past 20 plus years, where back then it was manageable for major releases to review them, get them out, have a staff of people and cover the games. The industry has exploded. Games are being released multiple times a day on Steam. I mean, obviously not major titles, but there are some gems that come out that people find out sometimes years down the road. It's like, oh, I didn't even know that game was out. No one ever even talked about it. That kind of thing happens. And back in the day, I feel like it was a lot more manageable and people had a lot more passion. People were brought into the industry because they loved gaming and they had a marriage, a perfect marriage of I love gaming. Oh, there's games to cover. Great. And then it kind of shifted into, I kind of like games. I've played games. I have a buddy that works there. They can get me a job. Sure. Oh, they're activists. Sure. I can push a cause. Sure. And that's what it turned into. And that ultimately, I wonder if it's a chicken or the egg thing. What started the downfall of the industry first? Was it because of the activists invading the industry, or was the industry getting too big for itself and then the activists just came in after that?
I think it's the activists came in after. I saw the shift. When I first got involved in the game industry, it was far and away the most intelligent group of people I'd ever been around. At the Hilton, we were sitting at the bar, and it was me, Chris Roberts, John Romero, and Mike Larson, who you may not know his name, but he's been the audio director at Epic Mega Games for 20 years. And we sat there for probably 6 hours just talking game design, like serious, in-depth stuff. And not to sell anything, none of us had anything to sell the other. We were just discussing what, some of the concepts that interested us, areas that we thought things should go and so forth. You do not see that now. Not even the game journalists are incapable of asking the right questions. And frankly,
take this with a grain of salt with Vox Day. I'm going to fact check this, but I'm just curious about how full of shit he is and how maybe he's not.
Frankly, the designers, most of them, not all of them, but most of them are not really of the same caliber, because there's starting in the like late 90s, all the suits started getting involved.
Mm-hmm. Do you think there was a shift in intelligence because of this? Because if you look back at the early game designs, it was a lot of strategy-based, turn-based things. That was kind of what games were built on, because it's kind of what you had to do back then. And so when you're doing strategy-based and turn-based, you're coming up with systems that are very mathematic and logical, and that's the entire crux of what you're doing. Do you think that the shift came because the focus then became, hey, graphics, what looks prettier, and it became shallower because of that?
Partly. I mean, obviously, I was one of the ones to blame on the graphic side since I was leading the 3D charge. But but we were looking at things that you could do that would make the game depth greater with the superior graphics. Unfortunately, what happened is that's when I mentioned the suits, all of the money was focused on the flash. And there was a lot of discussion. You can even read it in some of the later computer gaming worlds. There were discussions about how, like, guys, you need to pay attention to the game design, not the graphics. Because and the modern game journals that we talk about, a lot of them, all they talk about, I mean, okay, you're right. Sometimes they don't even talk about the game itself. They talk about the politics behind it.
Right.
But if you look back, starting in the late 90s, early 2000s, that's when you really started reviews almost entirely talking about the graphics. And which was stupid, because graphics, we knew they were going to keep improving. So what's the point even talking about it? It's much less not talking about the game design. What really screwed things up, in my opinion, is the publishers were afraid to let the game designers give power to gamers over other gamers. And so what you started seeing, like if you look at the old designs for the early Battlefield games, the early Call of Duty, there were a lot of mechanisms for interoperability, for cooperation in multiplayer games. Everybody's chasing the same thing. And so all the hardcore players just kind of drifted away gradually, because who cares about you can't play intelligently if it's just all about who can cheat best, or who has the fastest Twitch reactions and so forth. There's no thinking, there's no strategy. It's just pure Twitch reaction.
Yeah, I agree. Let me grab some super chats here, because we got a few lined up. North Scout, glad to see you guys carrying the hatchet. Me too. I think we have a lot more in common than we don't have, the way kind of Twitter works, more than anything else. I mean, do you have that same impression, Smash, for the most part?
I mean, yes and no. I think a lot can be lost in translation, but at the same time, there are certain tweets out there that I would question. But yeah.
Okay. The
Well,
collector says, appreciate you guys clearing the air and discussing things as men. God bless. God bless you too, brother. Thank you.
I
Matt
just
says,
want to point out that I was not at all involved in this Twitter war.
because you're banned from Twitter, Vox. I mean, it's not, you're banned from YouTube, banned from Twitter, and so you don't have any problems with anybody. It seems to solve everything. Maybe that's the answer.
I'm a man of peace. I'm a man of peace. Actually, but if you don't mind, I would like to bring it up. We don't have to address it now, but I would like to at least, and Smash. Do we call you Smash? What is the correct way to address you?
Oh, whatever. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I just want to make sure I'm getting the
Yeah,
right person here. You know, it's always a pain when we've got John Trent and Jon Del Arroz on, because I don't know you and I don't know anything about what was going on. But what was going on with Razorfist? What objection did you have with Razorfist? I work with him. I publish his stuff, and I was just a little bit taken aback by, I read the Fandom Pulse article and I was like, what's going on? And if you don't mind, I'm not, this is not a gotcha thing. If you'd just rather not discuss it, that's absolutely fine. But I just, as long as I have the opportunity, I wanted to ask you what was up, what was going on.
That's fine. It's kind of like a pretty loaded question. If you don't know anything about it, I don't know how much time do you have?
No,
we all know Razorfist. This chat, like, we're very good friends with Razorfist. Is what really is what it comes down to. So on our end, what we saw from, I don't even know how you call the split. Do you call the faction split like Goonergate? Is that really where we should label it? I don't even know how to label it. But
I guess that's probably the most accurate way to label it. But yeah.
So, but there seemed to be a split really at the holistic look at this, where that group seemed to get really, really mad at the, I'd say, more right-wing creators in the space and try to be. Would you guys characterize yourselves as like centrist? I'm not sure where you are politically. I don't follow that
politically. Here's the funny thing. I don't think politics really matter in the gaming space. I don't want politics in the gaming space. I think that's where the divide comes in, though. So okay. I don't know if this is really the Razorfist question to answer, but your answer, like a question.
It's fine. I don't get involved in any of the conflict and the drama for the most part. And so, but I did read the Fandom Pulse article, and I did talk to Razorfist, like, briefly, just to say, hey, I just thought as long as you're here, if you wanted to talk about it, I wanted to. Ask you about it.
I react to a lot of videos on my channel. I put out almost on average a video a day. That was a live stream that I stream every single night. Mm-hmm. I mean, honestly, I kind of think it's silly because I'm like this. I don't know what makes him so special and so different to take such exception to someone covering a story, which is what I do every single night and giving my thoughts on it. He seems to, in my opinion, feel like he's above the commentary community or conversation, and people can't watch something and talk about something. Now, as far as the allegations that have been levied his way, I even said in my stream last night, like, that's really unfortunate. And if those things are not true, I am genuinely sorry that came across that way. My impression was just, hey, this is a very dark area that it goes into, and it doesn't look great. That was my takeaway in my video. In fact, I watched it on my stream last night.
And this gets into kind of my perception of kind of where all this went with that crew. The Gooner crew or whatever, is that there became a concerted effort for that crew to turn the attention to more right-wing and Christian creators out in the space, and not only just disagree with, like, I don't like Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 because it's got graphic gay sex in it, which was underage until the patch. Optional gay sex, yes. Optional rape, right? And so I was like, I don't want to play gay stuff ever. And for some reason, that spiraled and snowballed into people personally attacking me, attacking my, going and looking into my family and shit. It's very weird. And that's exactly the same sort of thing with Razorfist here. I feel like Razorfist has some thoughts on some video games, and instead of staying on the topic of what is the important thing about the video games, these guys went full scorched earth and said, we're just going to just bring up every dirty accusation, whether it seems true or not. And like, don't equivocate on this. It's bullshit what they're saying about Razorfist. And I'm going to say this right here. Like, there's no reason to give it credence.
That's fair, but I just disagree with the premise of that, because the reason why I think it actually has merit and value is because of the standpoint that he was taking. And then going into, seeing a potential dark person and things that are, at least on the surface, fairly sketchy, and then contrast that with the image he's trying to portray as a holier than thou online. I feel like it was important to provide context to be like,
if those charges were true, then obviously you would have a very strong case to criticize hypocrisy and so forth. Yeah, but as John,
the job as the journalist to commentate first, though, and this is where Fandom Pulse really excels, is you look up and you do the research before coming out with a hot.
Did John not hear? Did Vox not hear? Definitely Vox didn't hear. He had this whole spiel about being banned off of every social media platform there is, and him not looking into drama. And Smash sort of torpedoes his own effort by saying, "Oh, I'm just commentating on this." But when you get into the meat of it, them really presenting the evidence, yeah, he's saying, I'm highlighting the hypocrisy. He's playing a certain character, but he's doing this whole holier than thou thing. What's the fuck up with that? Plus, Smash is not a journalist. He's backed off of that particular aspect here. Maybe the responsibility of that too much after the thing with where he got hit running fake news, people defended him in the weirdest possible way, even though what he did to McDizzle Gaming was closer to a dox than anything that anyone else has done, which he has sort of backed with the dox claims. Again, they're going on the premise that Smash JT is a journalist. Will he clarify that he renounced that title there?
Take on it and just being like, it might be true. If it's true, this is really bad, because that's just trying to gossip about somebody, and that doesn't do any good for the movement. It doesn't do any good for
I feel like
providing that's kind of what I've seen here, right?
I feel like also providing additional context to people so that they understand the full story of what the information we have available. I don't want to hold things back or hide things from people. If this is something that's
I published the book that broke the story about with the daughter of Marion Zimmer Bradley. Right. We've been at the forefront of criticizing the serious problem, generational, decades-long problem of pedophilia in science fiction. That's one of the reasons why both JDA and I are so anathema to the WorldCon community. But I mean, I can say with great confidence that the things that they were, the allegations directed against Razorfist were not only untrue but obviously false. And I think if you look into it, you will find that without any problem at all.
Yes, Box Day, but you're mistaken what Smash JT is. He brought up the fact he just sees himself as a commentator, not anyone reliable of any source of news. This is sort of a clown nose on, clown nose off. Yes, it's true. Smash JT has never claimed to be a journalist. He had a bane of journalist on his Twitter profile for a bit. But let's see what we can get out of this.
I don't think that there's
that was the pattern I think we took exception to. And so this started to build up and it was January, February. What the algorithm, and that's why I was setting that up. The algorithm's kind of cooled off. We were all kind of getting a little stressed because of that. On top of it, there's not a lot of stories out there. And so it seemed like this kind of crew got together and decided to just go after people personally. And there's no reason to do that in this space. There's no reason to, especially attacking right and punching right on that level. It's like, what are we trying to accomplish here? And to me, that's the anathema of the movement. The entire movement's purpose is to get rid of DEI in gaming and get rid of the left. That is my entire objective in life, because they destroy everything.
Oh, God. John, you're never going to be able to get rid of them completely. Even assuming that is a possibility. People on the left tend to be more creative-minded, while people on the right, conservatives, tend to conserve. Fox Day brought up earlier about military science fiction, and I agree, more rightoids tend to have a better understanding of that. But there is some interesting science fiction, fantasy, military-related, expedition force. Hell, you could even say the Expanse series get into that territory in science fiction, and rather popular, even though that niche is sort of dying down nowadays.
I think you're on board with that, right?
I almost feel like that's a narrative that you're inventing, though, because I wasn't going out of my way to find content to be like, oh, I'm desperate for content. Let me talk about this. It was a situation where Razorfist was quote tweeting me, saying some pretty wild things about me. And I'm like, I don't really know this person. Seems like he was standing up for Melanie Mack, because apparently there was some allegiance behind the scenes that I had no idea about. So it got me curious as to why this person was propping her up and defending her and trying to knock me down. And that's what led me down the path. It wasn't like a path of, oh, I need content. It was that was not, that never even entered my mind during it.
But by the way, in answer to one of the folks' questions, the reason that I'm here is because this is a show that I do weekly with JDA. Secondly, I'm both JDA's publisher and Razorfist publisher, among other things. So that's why I'm here. I'm usually here.
Sleep Deprived Bear says, thanks for showing up on stream, Smash JT, hoping for everyone's future success. Yeah, I think everybody should be a success in this space, except for if you're a Polygon or Kotaku or IGN reporter. $10 Smash said JDA wasn't Christian because of what he said about our elder brother. But does he know what Pope Innocent and Augustine said about the topic? Oh, are we going to talk about St. Augustine and what he thinks about rape again? I mean, that was an interesting, fascinating discussion last week. Do you know what Pope Innocent II and St. Augustine said about the topic?
Me?
Yeah, that was the question.
No idea.
Okay, so no.
You have to remember, I don't live in your guys' world. This is not my approach to anything. So if this is what you push, congratulations. But or if this is what you believe in, I mean, sorry. Whatever.
Oh, no, push. We what you may not realize, but I'm one of the world's biggest leather book publishers, and so we publish all kinds of classic stuff from Aristotle and Plato to modern stuff, and so
a beautiful history of the Byzantine Empire. Like, so yeah, this is a very well-read chat that likes to get into deep dives here. So
which is fair. I think that's where our
which is why you have way more subscribers.
Well, I feel like that's where our divergence. I feel like that's where the divergence is, though, because it's like my mentality is, guys, I legit just want to get back to the basics with games. I don't want any of this bullshit, whether it's woke shit or religious shit. I don't want any of this in the gaming. Well, if you want to make a game with religious stuff in it, have at it. If you want to make a game with woke stuff in it, have at it. But when you start pushing it and trying to use that as a platform to push an agenda, that's where I have an issue with it.
Well, let me disagree.
So according to this, Smash isn't really into... What agenda does some of these people have? He doesn't establish this. He just assumes a tint on certain people. With someone like Kim Belair, that is understandable. But when does he really even ever prove a lot of the people that he talks about have an agenda in video games and have the power to actually see it through? Very confusing sort of stance Smash has. Funny since he's sort of taken a non-political stance. Yeah, he's supportive of a lot of people who push a Trump sort of politics out there in the scene.